Hey, it's Obi Chukwumah of Space and Equity, where we're all about increasing assets and creating new space. Here with a new but good friend and my boy Chris Fisher of Magnolia Financial Group. Fish,
what's going on?
Pleasure to have you, bro. It's a pleasure to have you. We got a lot to dig into. We're going to dig into it fast.
Yes.
Firstly, you was telling us before you were a secondary. What position did you play at FAMU?
Cornerback.
You're a cornerback, so that means you got some speed on you? Or you were the technician cornerback?
I was a technician.
Okay.
But it's more like what's my man that played for Seattle that now plays for Tampa?
I know exactly who you're talking about. I'm just looking in his
Sherman. Richard Sherman.
Yeah.
So Richard Sherman ain't the fastest thing out there, but he's got technique. See, I'm one of those guys that prides myself on being pretty smart.
Okay. So you're like a Stanford guy.
Yeah.
Richard. Okay, I got you. I got you.
Yeah. Plus, when you get to the next level, them running backs get a little bit bigger.
They do.
Just a little bit.
Man, I don't know if you've been back to a game on the sideline since you finished playing.
Mm-hmm.
But the speed and the carnage that happens on the field, it's just a different story. I was like, how did I do that? Why did I do that?
Yeah.
When you see it, how it just happens so fast.
It's happening really fast. And then the speed is different when you go from being at like your college game than going to a high school game, and you're looking like, well, this is kind of slow.
Yeah,
But you don't feel it at that point.
You don't until it happens. I remember my first college game that I played, and we played App State. And App State's at the time they were 1AA. They're 1A now, but we were supposed to be better than App State.
Mm-hmm.
Just put it there. And we won the game, but bruh, I was like, man, everything's happening so fast. And then later on in the year, we're playing Florida State. And that was a whole nother level. The old Florida State, the Bobby Bowden Florida State.
Yeah.
I can't get with how explosive that game is, and you don't even think about it when you're playing. But stepping back, I'm like, man, that's some carnage out there. It is
crazy. Yeah.
So before we dig into your expertise from the financial perspective, we like to play a game we call background check.
All right, cool.
And get people to get to know where you're from. So in Ohio, we call this pop. What do people call a carbonated drink from your hometown?
So, I'm a kid that grew up in Dallas but got Louisiana, New Orleans roots, right?
Okay.
So I'm more like a chameleon. It depends on which city I'm in with my family growing up. So if I'm in New Orleans with that family, we call it a cold drink.
A cold drink. A cold drink is you're talking about a soda.
And you guys, with the accent, you don't have the D on it. It's just cold drink.
A cold drink.
Yeah, but it really is cold drink.
Okay.
Can you get the cold drink? But in Dallas, everything was a Coke.
As a Coke. Yeah. And then my thing about the Coke thing is, how do you so you say, I want a Coke, and then they say, what kind?
It just depends.
It just depends.
Yeah.
That's crazy to me. We call it.
Everything is just a Coke,
Everything is a Coke. Okay. I get that. Tell me 3 things about New Orleans that the locals will know, but outsiders just don't know.
First, West Bank is the best bank.
Okay.
My family is Algiers, type of thing. The other thing is, you can find better beignets at your local coffee shop than Cafe du Monde.
Okay. Because that's where when I go to New Orleans, you have to go to Cafe du Monde. Yeah.
Yeah, but no, you can get better ones than that. The third thing is that the culture gets monetized, but the culture does not receive the monetization.
Oh man, wow.
You see what I'm saying?
Everybody knows about New Orleans, but the people that make New Orleans don't get the benefit off of it.
There's no benefit off of it for them, right?
Yeah.
So,
sounds like a microcosm of our place in this world, if you will. Yeah,
it is. It's like this, right? So, for some people, they might see a guy that might be, playing down in the French Quarter, playing the trumpet, got his hat out, whatever. And this is a musician that probably went to college and played in one of the big bands, whether it's Southern or Grambling or something like that.
Wow.
And some people look at it like, oh man, he's down on his luck. He's playing. No, that ain't the case.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of times those cats that are playing at that level, they're doing it because they love it. They love music.
Yeah.
So, that's just a part of who they are. Mm-hmm. It's not a down on their luck type of situation. That's the culture.
That's their craft.
Exactly.
Is that their 10,000 hours, or there's just I got to do? I don't care about perfecting the craft. It's just I got to do it because it's part of my.
It's just a
nature.
part of It's part of who they are. Music is such a big, vibrant thing. And so I got cousins that are huge in the music scene. Down there that just absolutely love music and it doesn't leave them. That's just what they do. A lot of talent that's there that hasn't been tapped into yet still. On a big commercial side of things. But yeah, love the city. Love it for sure.
Tell me, so the music, obviously we know about Master P, we know about Master P's No Limit, but
Cash Money.
Yeah. Master P came at it with a corporate mindset, a business mindset. Right. How did you guys receive the work that they were putting out as it was happening?
So it's a little bit different. Okay. I'm gonna tell you the only reason why it's a little bit different is because I actually had a cousin that was doing pretty well in the music scene locally in New Orleans. Okay. He was an independent artist for a little bit, and so you kind of get a little bit of some insides as far as how he's moving. He was also producer and all that kind of stuff, and so he was part of that crew that was almost about to pop underneath all of that, but he didn't. He was big in New Orleans, but not.
It didn't get national.
Yeah, it didn't get much national past that. But seeing how me. Taking a step back, most of my years, my years growing up, I did more of my growing up in the Dallas area, so I got to be kind of see from afar as well. Okay. And seeing how Master P has done things, his longevity, he went into things. He took that hood gangster mindset, but duplicated it into music and said, hey, I'm gonna be a boss and nobody's gonna run me and I'm gonna go take what's mine and I'm gonna own what's mine. I would have mad respect for what Master P has been able to do. Some people don't like some of the things that he's done inside business wise, but at the end of the day, he's a man that stands on his own too, and has done what he needs to do for his business, and not everybody's going to understand or sometimes appreciate at that moment what somebody that's in a seat of a boss that has to do to make those certain decisions down the line. So, it's kind of is what it is. But he was a trendsetter. He definitely was that.
Absolutely. Yeah. I think he set a blueprint for ownership that has gone further in this next generation than anybody. And that that's hard to say when you see what Jay did as well, but. There's something about that drug dealer background that, good, bad, or indifferent, made for excellent, shrewd business.
Yeah, he did something that was he did influencer marketing with his music before you even really knew what influencer marketing was. Okay. So a strong example is that when he traveled around to each hood around the country, he would find a lot of the top drug dealers that got the car set up and the music's gonna be playing loud. Yeah. So he'd be handing it out to them in the hood. Yeah. Everywhere he go. And then they playing it loud when they go, and all of a sudden it became so he found who were the influencers within inside of that market.
And then
tapped into it. And that's how his music became big at that moment in time. And then the other thing he did was that he knew to pay for mentorship. Okay. Sometimes people are not willing to pay for mentorship or for the right information. And he set up a meeting with a specific attorney in LA that was a music business attorney. And before getting into his deal, he paid the man, I forget the amount, but it was some thousands of dollars that he paid him for a one-time lunch. They said, hey, how do I set up this type of deal? And based off of that, he was able to make sure that all his deals were set up. Yeah. And you hear, before anybody else in the rap industry was getting money, he was getting the real money. Yeah. Because he knew how to set up.
Didn't he set up like an 80-20 split?
Yeah, he did. Wow. He did for his distribution. Yeah, he did.
That's amazing. To be when I say it's amazing, it's because I don't even think a lot of guys even had a distribution contract to begin with, and it was their own music that was being circulated.
Right. See, here's the thing: when you're on the other side of the deal, and you're in the A position, the nature of how these deals roll is, if you don't know what to ask for, it's not my fault.
Mm-hmm.
So if you don't ask for it, fine.
Yeah.
I'm probably willing to give up more because I'm going to make more. But if you don't ask for it, I'm not going to offer it up. I'm going to keep it and keep it moving.
Mm-hmm.
And then you're going to think, oh, I'm screwing you out of deal. But really, the mindset is it's your responsibility to be educated on what to ask for at the table.
Yeah.
Versus my responsibility when you're in that moment. Yeah. I get from being on the other side of it, feeling like, man, I didn't get my money. I did all this work. But that's how it is. It's an ebb and flow to it all.
Yeah, we've got to, and I think the masterpieces of the world have illustrated this, that we have to do more than be the craftsman. Mm-hmm. I think in the black community, there's nothing, because of creativity, because of the need to be creative, there's no other option. We come up with the greatest art. Mm-hmm. However you want to present it, we come up with the greatest art. But what we don't do is build enough business acumen to not be exploited in the art that we're
100%
putting out to the community.
100%. Our artists like to be in the creative mode, and very rarely do artists like to get into the analytical numbers business, right? So finding somebody that can kind of flip that switch and go back and forth. That's why you got people like Baby who, in my opinion, it ain't really all that good of an artist, but you flip him into business.
Then, yes.
It's that type of thing. But I think more and more guys are starting to be aware of what's going on, than what has transpired in the last 30 years, 40 years, and beyond. But you have, you can say the same for chefs, right? You got a lot of people that are chefs that are creative in that space, but just not great at the business. Same with doctors.
Oh, absolutely.
So
it's rare to have a good business now there are out there, but the majority are not.
Right. They're very good at their craft. I've ran into some deals with scientists. The scientist is extremely good at the craft, but as far as the business side, and sometimes,
we fail to realize that in our space often, because the business side becomes its own language, but we think it's a language that is interpreted by the entire community, and it's just not.
It's not.
It's not even close. So the first conversation we had, it was an introduction by David, and you opened my eyes to things that I hadn't even thought about in my 14, 15-year banking career. In general, talk to the audience about how does a municipality put together its funding, its capital stack. We think about taxes and that's it.
Right, yeah. Taxes is the one thought that goes out there, but now you have municipalities, government entities, a lot of governments, countries are raising capital, but they're raising it on the private side.
Okay.
Right? They can't just create some of them. You have some municipality bonds, but outside of that, they need private entities that have the ability to create their own financial instruments to be able to fund projects, to attract those projects, and then they'll provide different incentives and things of that nature. But it's a whole nother market, whole nother world when it comes to creating money in that secondary capital market world that 99% of the folks don't even get exposed to. We're exposed to it as from a byproduct standpoint on the retail side of things, but most have no idea, how it even works or what it even looks like to create money for a municipality or for a country.
So walk me to two things, because I heard a couple of things. One is simply just give a high-level definition of what a bond is, because I don't think a lot of our audience would be able to say that.
Yeah, so a bond is just really simply a security or a debt that somebody is looking to, or that an entity, there's a beneficiary that would pay that bond back, or they created a debt and that debt is held by an entity, and they have to pay that bond, that bond money back. You know? So sometimes with a bond, it could be raised through a bunch of different people. Could be looking as the investors of it, or it could be one big financial institution that could be the financial source of it. But there's a whole market out there on how you could buy and sell bonds, and make a spread off of that. So what will happen is, for instance, let's say we're in a housing subdivision. Well, the mortgage the mortgage company is going to have a bond in the capital secondary markets. They'll take all the mortgages for a specific area, wrap it up, and create one particular bond, because the house is an asset that they have on the books. So they'll take it to the secondary market, sell all of the notes, if you will, because if the house burns down or whatever, you still have that note on top of that house that's there. And if it gets paid out through insurance or whatever, you have money that's going to satisfy that. So it's a whole nother world that's out there. What happens is you have qualified institutional buyers that have the ability to do trade with the bonds, and really all you're doing is just trading debt. So like you may have a bond that you can buy for 20 or 30 cents on the dollar, and then you sell it to another qualified institutional buyer for 40 or 60 cents on the dollar. And you make that arbitrage in between, or that spread in between. And that happens 4 to 5 times in a day by these big global banks. Right? And so that's what creates capital. So debt is what is creating the capital spread. And from that capital, it gets brought back and pushed out into the economy.
So debt is a critical component of specifically the American economy, but the global economy in general. So what you just described is institutions like an insurance company, that are loaded with cash, but have to do something with that cash in the case they got to start paying out premiums, or paying out death benefits, things of that nature. So they find projects like a city building out an amphitheater, and say we could put that money towards that project. The city, through its taxes, will likely pay us back, but if they don't, they have some securities behind it to support it, or some hard assets like the real estate itself, and that's how this thing gets circulated.
That's exactly right. And it's really big for cities when it comes to infrastructure. Right. Those are huge, because those are long-term projects. And a lot of cities are in huge infrastructure needs, whether it's for their water, or for roads, airports, or ports itself, depending on where the country or city is located. And those are how they'll go out and create projects around that. And those insurance companies are major buyers in these markets, because you got to think, if you're paying $50 a month, on $1 million insurance policy, where is that money coming from? Right? And how are they going to be able to afford to pay that if I don't put that type of money out? Well, that's because they're taking that cash and going out and trading that cash out on the markets to make money, create money, and that $1 million that you're in your policy that you're able to pay out over here. Well, that's chump change compared to what they've already done with that money.
So what you're telling me, let me get it straight, because I think that we miss this as there's nothing wrong with being a W-2 employee, but when your money doesn't work for you, there's a problem with that. So you're saying businesses, they make money, but then they take that money and make that money, put it to work as well to make more money on top of that money.
Exactly. That is exactly what happens. That's exactly what happens. So just as what you said, there is nothing wrong with being a W-2 worker. Nothing wrong with it. The only thing is that you just want to make sure that you are informed on what's going on with your money. Like specifically, your 401k, right? Like,
I'm glad you touched it.
We could talk into
who's benefiting from the 401k. Who's benefiting more? I'm not saying you and I, we benefit from the 401k, but we benefit from the 401k 30, 40 years from now, and somebody is actively growing their business off of that capital today.
Right. And it's also, here's the thing. At the end of the day, no matter whether you choose to be a business owner, whether you choose to be a W-2 worker, whatever, At the end of the day, and I'm saying this to y'all in the camera, at the end of the day, you have to know the rules of the game. Period. Know the rules of the game, because all these different things, if you don't know the rules, you can get messed up. You got all kinds of different things that I would consider smoke that look good, and because we're conditioned and we're in a certain habit of doing certain things, we're like, oh, okay, yeah, that's what I'm supposed to do. Yeah. Because that's what this person did, and that's what that person did. So I guess that's what I'm supposed to do. But yet we're not very informed on how it really works. So if you really want to get ahead in the game, regardless of where you're at in the position, you need to know who you are as related to the game in the system, and then how the game really works, and the tools that are associated with it. Know those three things, then it allows you to maneuver a lot better in your decision-making process.
Absolutely. So we always hear these generational terms, baby boomers. The reason I bring up baby boomers is that group of folks are at the end stage of retirement, and the largest portion of the wealth held within this world is in that category, that group.
Right.
All right. So the first thing I think about is pensions. These guys are retiring. They're the last generation of true pension owners.
Right.
And these pensions need to be paid out. What is happening when you have this huge flux of paying out pensions to these institutional funds? Where are they finding the capital to grow their need to pay out these longer living individuals in the space?
That's actually a bigger problem in the market space than what's really being talked about.
Okay.
It's talked about a little bit, but it's not like a big blinding or a big alarming thing. But the pension funds, they're constantly looking for assets, cash producing assets to get involved in, because they're paying out more money than what they're bringing in.
Okay. Wow.
And so they need more higher earning deals to get involved in, and there's only but so many. And they're in a weird spot right now, where for many, real estate is one of the main little spots. Pension funds are good spots to go to for investors for your large real estate deals, because they need
those transactions. They need to put their cash to work towards those transactions.
Right.
Are they paying enough? The average IRR and these internal rate of return is what, and are those paying high enough to support these pension fund needs?
Well, so I'm not 100% as far as what overall for pension funds with the IRR that they're receiving in general over there. But what we like to look at simply is something anywhere between the 17 to 20 mark for the IRR, which is pretty good, but not like nothing crazy. But the pension funds, even when you're looking at what your average rate of return is on your capital, they're not bringing in enough capital on even some of the typical, whether they're getting 10% return on their money or which a double-digit return on something is typically you're thinking of something great, because if that's compounding, you're making your money back within a shorter
less than 10 years.
About seven years. So, but they are also paying out money. So it's not just about the compound. It's about, okay, I'm paying that money out. So yeah, it's a lot of different people that are in this issue, and it's not just here in the States. There's countries, smaller countries, that are running into these issues as well. Like I know about specifically some things going on. Antigua is one country that I know about that. I wouldn't say they have major pension problems, but their pension fund is looking to do some different things for their country because of aging, demographic, and they need something to be able to, fund what's going on. And their situation is a little bit different because you have people that own assets that outside foreign investors that come in, but as soon as a hurricane comes, they'll get their insurance money and they're getting out. But what happens is the government has to come in and bail out that entity and take on that entity because there's a lot of jobs because of the local market.
Yeah.
And so they come in, become the new owner of whatever that entity is, whether it's a hotel or if it's a airline or whatever it might be. They pick it up, but the government, that's not the business that they're trying to be in, but they're just trying to make sure that their people are able to, have something, from that end. But yeah, it's a lot that goes on out here from that side of things. So yeah.
Okay. So back to the baby boomers and this pension challenge and therefore opportunity. These are also a lot of the business owners that are retiring, and if a generation be passed, they would be passing the business on to their offspring.
Right.
That's not happening.
No, it's not.
Where's the opportunity? So specifically in real estate, but in any industry or sector, how does one capitalize on, we got businesses for sale and we don't have buyers, or we don't have people to take on the business?
Right.
Where's the...
So that is actually what I believe is the biggest opportunity that's not talked about, that's missed. Because my group, we believe that starting a business from scratch is overrated.
Okay.
And the reason being is because you're in the highest risk category when you're having to start from scratch. Plus, there is, when you're starting from scratch, you don't have proven business systems, and it's about shelling out money without any certainty that there's going to be return. So it's all about spending money to push out versus putting money to get money returned back to you. So going after these the businesses that are for sale, really only about a fourth of the businesses that are on the market that go for sale actually get acquired.
Yeah, wow.
So there's still a whole bunch of businesses that are up for sale that just don't get sold, and they're looking for people. So if you have a business idea, I would say there's ways to mitigate the risk on what you're doing by going after and acquiring a business that already pre-exists, that has
a book of business.
You're buying the cash flow. So you buy the cash flow, and then you utilize the cash flow to fund the extension of the idea that you're thinking about doing from there. But buy cash flow first. Don't mess with what already is working, because you want to stick with that cash flow. Yeah. And then you take some of the cash flow from there, and you can make a risk that is that's an extension of, but not changing what's going on over here, right? But I think that's something that more people need to think of from a strategy standpoint, because I know that a lot of people are looking like, okay, how do I go out and raise money and get the investors to be involved in my deal? Well, the biggest thing as an investor is I just need to know is how much money am I going to make on this deal? B, what's the risk associated with it? And if the risk is it something that I can live with? And if something happens, how can I get my money back? Yeah, those three things right there is like investors are gonna ask all kinds of questions that are all centered around those things right there. How
much it costs? How much am I gonna make? If it goes bad, how to get my money out?
How to get my money back, which is collateral. Do you have any? Is there assets that are involved in the business that allows me to do it? If you don't have the assets, do you have any kind of credit enhancement from somebody else that can allow me to be able to do that? And how do you know that this is working? Do you have any proof of revenue that's happening? So if you're thinking of doing something from scratch, well, say, hey, I'm gonna acquire these entities right here, and here's what the revenues are making right now. Now you got something to say, oh, okay, I see. Oh, they already got assets on the book, and then when you have assets on the book, it's easy to go out and get a loan based upon the assets that are sitting right there.
Yeah, proven assets.
Yeah, proven assets.
I'll say this, though. The counter to that could be this. So I'm a W-2 employee. I'm a business owner, too. I'm a W-2 employee. My wife's a W-2 employee. We take those W-2s and we go to the bank and say, hey, look, we want to buy a coffee store. We want to buy into this concept. And they're like, oh, we understand that concept because we've banked them before. It's a great concept. And you guys make enough money separate. You have enough cash flow. If you keep that going, yeah, we'll give you one. We'll give you three. But those are still starting from scratch. How would I go about doing that and buy 10 existing because it'd be more expensive to buy existing.
You said the coffee shop, it's already.
So it's a franchise. So there's
that's the thing though.
Okay.
That's a pre-existing business.
Gotcha. Okay.
You're still buying into a system.
Yes.
The franchise, the whole thing about franchising is you're buying the system.
Gotcha.
And there's cash flow involved into it. So now, and the bank is familiar with that franchise. So now the risk for them is down, right? Because here's the thing: banks don't they don't take any risk on any deal. Right?
I try to tell people
they don't take any risk.
Bank is here for, man, you look like you can run fast. I've seen you, and we're gonna get you from here to here, but you already running. They're not here for you when you're crawling.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. That's exactly it. You gotta already have that speed up in you, and ready to go, and they're gonna bring you through the rigor to make sure. Yeah. That you are covering all the bases so that if you decide to not do what you're supposed to do, I got every angle I need to do what? Get my money back. So that's okay. If it goes wrong,
how do I get my money back?
How do I get my money back? I'm gonna find every angle to do it. Yeah. So that's what that's all about.
So tell us about these outside sources of capital that is different, can get you further. There's rigors. Let the audience know about if I'm gonna buy a business instead of start a business, what are areas I can go to make that happen?
Yeah, so first, if you're really gonna take that risk, first you want to look internally to what you already may have. There's some things that you've been working for some years. You got your 401k. You can roll that bad boy over into a self-directed IRA and utilize that as funds. Yeah. And your self-directed IRA becomes a partner.
But wait a minute, that's my savings for when I retire and go to the beach. Why would I take that money and grow into a business?
Well, the thing is, okay, if you have your IRA, what do you know what they're investing in? Would you rather invest in yourself or have them blindly throw things out there, which gives you a very minimal return? Now, I'm not saying you don't have to use all of the funds inside of it. But it's a tool. It's another tool and a source that you can utilize.
And you're not taxed because it's a self-directed IRA.
Self-directed, exactly. And so you're still not the entity that is owed when you're doing your disbursements, your K-1 disbursements. It's going to the IRA versus directly straight to your pocket. So you're growing the money back into it. It's doing the same exact thing, except it's just being put into your own personal business. Yeah. So. That's one way to look at it. Then you look at your immediate sphere of influence. Sometimes that can be a little tough when you're dealing with that, but look at your immediate sphere of influence. A lot of people that have 401ks and all that kind of stuff. There's another things that you could do. Other things that you could do, insurance policies, cash value insurance policies, IULs. You can buy into doing some insurance policies and grow those things out and take a loan against the IUL against the death benefit on the IUL and utilize that as your bank to take some funds to go out and go from there. So these are all just basic tools that you can go into, and then obviously you have your angel investors, your VCs, guys like myself. My company, we represent a private common law trust, so our trust does a lot of banking activity on the background doing in the secondary markets, but we have entities that lends out private capital. So private entity, private lending is a way to look at it. So you just want to get tapped into it. I think from the mindset first is just thinking in the mind of abundance that it's already around you. And it's just a matter of being revealed to you. Yeah. When you're scared and you don't think that it's there, it ain't ever gonna show itself. But when you're like, wait, hold on, it's all sitting right here. Yeah. I just got to figure out and put the puzzle pieces to. That's why I say earlier, know the rules to the game, and know the game that you're playing, and know where you sit as who you are as related to the game. Because knowing those things, a lot of things get revealed to you as far as what can and can't be done and what resources are available out there. For you. Don't just buy into what a news station may say on a high level thing. Research. Yeah. Take your time and research and figure out what's really going on out there.
Yeah. tell the audience, I think people don't realize, and you've shared this with me in one-on-one, is that there's more capital than there's production. There's more capital that cannot find the production to source. And I'm going to use Tesla as an example. Tesla now has $1 trillion valuation, and they're not producing enough to make $1 trillion, but somebody is saying, I got to put my capital somewhere, and this is a good bet. This is a safe bet. So tell us about your thoughts behind that.
Yeah, so if we're utilizing Tesla as an example, the first thing is Tesla is, I'll use an attorney term, they're a stalking horse in the game right now, right? So they are setting the trend as far as as relates to the use of electric powered things, so they've always considered themselves more than just a car company. And so when it comes to things in that regard, man, Tesla is doing things that are way above anybody else right now. But outside of them, what people have to understand that there is a whole lot of money that's being created and circulated in the market, and it needs to find a place. The hard thing is just finding quality things that are ready to be investable into. So again, we talked about like the risk of getting inside of some of these deals. I think with most people, that they need to start putting their shoes in the form of, how do I create my business and think from the investor's viewpoint. When you start thinking like the investor versus, everything is great, entrepreneur, and nothing is wrong with my business, then it becomes very hard. But here's a great example. I was watching Breakfast Club one day, and a while back ago, maybe about 2 years ago, they had my man, what's his name? He owns Griot and Weather Channel and.
I know who you're talking about. He was suing.
Yes, him.
Why is it? I can see his face and I can't think about it. But
sheesh, I'm having a brain fart with him. But he was on the Breakfast Club. Former comedian. God,
we're gonna look this up because I'm not having this happen on my show twice. I had this happen on my first episode. All right. The owner of Weather. I'm putting it in the Weather Channel. Who's the owner of the Weather? Byron Allen. There we go.
Allen. My man Byron Allen. He got on the Breakfast Club and he's like, first you got to realize that $300 million is not a lot of money. And they were just like, what, Byron? Like $300 million? That's a lot of money. What are you talking about, Byron? Yeah. Well, that's really literally like playing the game where the game is really being played at right now. It ain't in the thousands. It ain't even the single millions.
Yes. It's in the tens of millions.
And hundreds of millions. Yes. Is where this game is being played at. And there's a lot of money for quality deals, but there's just not enough deals out there, right? Like for instance, I have to fill up a certain amount of debt that needs to be. I have a buyer for a lot of debt that we create. We create our own securities, and that we have to fill up a contract with a particular buyer. I'm choosing my words wisely because I can't, because of confidentiality. I can't talk about all the stuff. But in general, I have to find projects that I need to put money into, right? But the projects have to meet certain qualifications. They have to be at a certain size, all that kind of stuff. And quality projects with people that can execute at that level are, few and far between.
Gotcha.
Right? And so I think that more people need to get out of thinking that I could just settle for just getting these crumbs, because the crumbs are not going to get you anywhere. Right? We think, somebody could say, oh man, I just got $1 million investment, which is good. I'm not trying to rain on that parade, but that still is just crumb compared to what's really going on out there.
Absolutely.
Right? So, and it's harder. It's a lot harder to fund a $1 million project than it is for a $100 million project. And a lot of people don't even realize that. But because there's more deals that need to be had at that size. So it's harder to fund that deal. And the mindset of most of those that are doing $100 million and above, they're like, well, it takes the same work. So
why would
I fund that? I'm gonna get paid less. I gotta deal with bigger headaches because
they don't know the language that we speak as a result. Not being exposed to it.
Not being exposed, and you haven't had the experience to do it. So and you don't have the team around you to have the experience. So, it becomes things. So I tell people all the time, a lot of times people are like, man, I don't want to come up all my equity and all that kind of stuff. Well, you don't have the experience around you, so get the people around you, give them some buy-in with some equity, and then go out and make that deal happen. And it's better to have a slice of a watermelon than it is to have 100% of a grape.
Yeah. And I think we're so short-sighted because we think this is the only deal. This is just a start. Have you ever seen a business owner only have one thing going on?
Exactly.
They may start with that, and then it does this and this and this and this and this. Probably, if you look at Tesla as the example that we use, you know how many verticals that are tied underneath that umbrella that we don't even know about.
Yes, that's the other part. Not all of it's in the front.
Yeah.
And some of the things that that some of the businesses that you want to think about that really make some of the good money are not even the ones that you got to go further down the supply chain.
Yeah.
Start look. If you think about if you're on the retail top level, that's usually the least amount of money that's being made in the supply chain. So if you start looking further back down the supply chain, stuff that you never really ever hear about, that don't have to have an Instagram page or nothing like that. That's where the money is being made. That's where it's at right there. But it takes long, patient capital to get involved in those type of situations. But you can work your way up because companies like Coca-Cola, they started on one level, but they just continue to acquire entities down the supply chain line to where now they own the complete whole supply chain. So think about that from that standpoint. Is okay. I might start here. I'm gonna start acquiring so I can.
What do you say to us specifically, folks in the black community, who don't even have the capacity right now to think at a larger scale, to think globally, to think beyond this? Hey, I'm gonna start a business. I'm gonna get SBA funding, which there's nothing wrong with the SBA, and being happy right there. Versus, man, what can my exposure do?
So what I would say is if you're happy with the current state of our community, stay at the level where you want to be at right there. Stick with what you're doing. But if you want to really gain more power and control, expand your exposure, and that also means that you got to understand the game that you're really being playing. A lot of times in our community, I hate to say this, but it is what it is. We're more worried about our feelings than we are about the facts. Yeah. So we because the game that we play, or the game of capitalism in the United States, one of the first rules of that game is F your feelings. So they don't care about your feelings and how you feel. There is no. It's about profit and loss. Yes. Yeah. That is it. Profit and loss. Quite frankly, it ain't even about your skin color.
Yeah. It's not. And be honest, you may not even like the game, but it's still the game.
It's still the game.
You may not like to play polo, but if everybody's playing polo,
you better go get you a horse and a stick.
You better get a horse and a stick.
Better learn how to ride real quick.
And this is not about capitalism for the sake of just being wealthy for.
Right.
It is for control and autonomy.
Right.
Self-actualization is really hard to have if you don't control your wallet.
Right. Exactly. And that's the whole thing right there. It's you hit the nail on the head. It's not even about having all of the money in the world. It's not about that. But if you want to have true power, like we have to understand how power, politics, and profit, how those three things intertwine with each other. Yeah. You know what I mean? We get into politics thinking that, okay, I'm gonna go make a difference, but then we don't have any leverage because we're only in the politics part. We don't have the power or the profit to go behind me. You know, I hear about some politicians try not to raise money from the community and use their own money because they don't want to get caught up, because so many times they've seen our politicians get in the game and then, you know, they get tripped up over like $100,000, $200,000, which, man, that's no money.
Yeah.
Like they're getting thrown into jail for no money, and that's part of the problem, because you have not had a certain type of capital behind you. And you don't know the game as well as you think you know it, but you're getting power drunk on the position that you've been voted into, and think you something when you still just a pawn in the game.
Yeah.
You know, so it's one of those scenarios. We have to get past the racial part of things, because at the end of the day, it's used as a distraction. It's a tool for distraction to divide. And if everybody's heard divide and conquer, well, heck, that's what's happening. They continue to divide us. Yes, racism is a very real thing, very real construct that's utilized against us. But you have to understand, this is part of the game that's being used to keep me distracted on what's really happening and what's going on. That's what's happening. Learn the rules of the game that's being going on.
Even think about this. So I'm going off on a little tangent, but the John Gruden thing, like, first off, you think he's the only one that thinks he's the norm, not the exception to the rule.
He's not the exception.
He's not the exception, and I think we'll get more out. There's a reason why we're not going to get that. If it's from the NFL standpoint, we're not going to get that report. There's an absolute reason. But if we stop saying you need to make more black coaches, give us more opportunities, versus saying you can't do the NFL without us.
You can't do it without us.
So this is our demands. Like, the NFL doesn't exist. This multi-billion-dollar organization and enterprise does not exist without black labor. And that black labor is absolutely required for the entertainment and for the revenue generation.
Right.
But it still, for the most part, operates very plantation-ish, and we play right into that, and we don't have to.
Right. Here's why it becomes a problem, why these guys can't make this stance. This is not all, but this is a general type thing. If they had walked away from the NFL and stopped playing, whatever, a lot of these billionaire owners, they have other revenue streams.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
They are
this
just
is
fine.
Fun. This is
a
money.
Toy.
Yeah,
you know, for a lot of them. You know, minus Jerry, it's more than a toy for him.
Yeah, Jerry, his ego is very tied into this. Yeah, he has a lot of revenue streams, but his ego is tied into the Cowboys.
But in general, these players, if they try to take that stance, a lot of them, especially in the NFL, because there's not guaranteed contracts. It's like, man, well, how am I going to feed my family? You know, type of thing.
Yeah.
And because they're not taking their capital and putting it into other ways to make it work for them so that they can take their leverage, because right now that's the only leverage that they have. You know, they don't have any other leverage, but it's a huge leverage for them to say, hey, we want this, or we're going to move on. That's one thing. The other part of it is what hasn't been done yet is they don't have another option because it's a monopoly right now.
There's no other league they can go to and say. And the NFL's thinking, not only there's no other league you can go to, but we'll move on from you. There's other people behind you that come right
behind you that want to.
That want to.
You know what? I'll make an example out of this one. He makes a stance. Oh, he ain't coming back. But there's power in the collective that we just haven't figured out how to. We haven't figured it out yet. We haven't figured that out as a group, and we've been. They've done a number on us to where we've been divided for a very long time.
Absolutely.
To where we have not united behind one thing to say, okay, I'm going to get behind this long term and we're going to do this. And that's also because we have not been in the right positions of power to be able to control what's going on, to say, hey, as a collective, hey, here's your option for you to go. Right now, we don't have that option, and we don't even have the capital to create that option. So, you know, it's hard. There's
a positive flip to that, though. There's a generation of black wealth creation that is occurring right now.
Right now, in front of it's happening.
It's happening.
It's gained some momentum, big time.
And I wonder how we make that more of a cohesive organism. It's happening pockets all over the place, but we're still doing it separately, which is fine. create your own, but we need to know that there's a bigger play behind it.
There needs to be something created that becomes the home for it all.
Okay.
I already thought of it, but with the who. Whether there's some major conference or weekend or a event, I'll say, that attracts all of those leaders.
Yeah.
I mean, there's already a bunch of different conferences and stuff that happen, but a major event that goes after those major influencers that will attract all the people to come to, that becomes the thing to do, you know. And for us, you infuse the culture into it. It's not just a let me go sit in the seat and listen to somebody speak. You know, no, you add the excitement that makes us.
Yes.
You know, for the entire thing. I think that's something that that needs to happen, and then there needs to be a continued push to make this something that's for the entire family, so that the kids can see that this is something that we do.
And then here's the next step. Why do we don't have to be lockstep with one another? Boyce Watkins doesn't have to like Byron Allen for us to say, hey, I want improvement in the black community and let's work together at that end. Yeah. Even though our politics aren't all the same.
That's the beauty of having a body, right? Like, everybody doesn't have to be a thumb. Everybody doesn't have to be the pinky, you know, or any other finger that, for that matter. We put them together, forms a fist.
Yeah.
You know, now, I do believe that the beauty of it all is that we do have our own mindset, and we have a collective that has their own strengths, and everybody doesn't have to be on the exact same page, but the mission should be progressing us forward.
Yes.
Without tearing each other down.
Yeah.
If I disagree with you, we can be men and disagree.
Yeah.
Right? We can be adults about disagreeing. But that doesn't mean, just because you and I disagree, don't mean that your way is better than my way and my way is better than yours. Matter of fact, you go do you, I'm going to go do me, and we're heading towards the same target. And whoever attracts you, because everybody's got different personalities and they're attracted to different things. So cool. You got your core group, I got my core group, let's go. We attack it from different angles, but we're still pushing forward, and that's got to be the mindset, is that we're all still pushing forward, no matter what angle we're coming from.
Absolutely. Fish, man, we could talk for hours, and I appreciate your time. We're going to have you back on the show for sure. I'd love to join you on your show, but before we head out, please plug what you believe you need to share with the community. How can people find Fish?
Yeah, man, find our show. We're On the Money Podcast. You can look us up on Instagram. On the Money GSP is our Instagram handle, and so go on YouTube and just type in On the Money Podcast, and we have a few shows that are out there. It's myself and a couple of my other business partners. Got Bethel Johnson and Christopher Harris, two other brilliant guys in the business game that are my business partners. And we're always inviting different guests to come on. So I look forward to you, Obi, coming in and joining us. We're going to extend the invite. We have a few episodes that were out there, and we're going to get back started doing some more episodes here in the near future. So find us on there, and we chop it up and do some more things there.
Awesome, man. So we've got From the Field to the Boardroom. This is a network designed just for you. This is targeted towards athletes who didn't get a chance to be in the internship space because they were in practice. They were on the field, they're on the court. That's December 3rd through December 5th. You're going to see Fish as our speaker. One of our speakers on the 4th will be Chris Fisher of Magnolia Financial Group. We'll have Alvin Hope Johnson sharing his real estate wealth of knowledge with the group. And then we'll also have attorney Larry West sharing nuggets with the team. We're going to have basketball. We're going to the Mavs game. The Mavs versus, what's Zion's team?
The Pelicans.
So Mavs Pelicans game. We got a suite. We got golf before that. Then we'll have the speaker series all through Saturday. We'll hang out Saturday night, and we'll have brunch on Sunday. So definitely come check us out. We appreciate you in advance for joining us. You can find us on IG at OB_empowers, on YouTube Space Equity. The website is Space Equity Corp. Like us and subscribe. If you don't like us, I don't like that thumb that's upside down. Just send me an email. If it makes sense, I'll respond. obi@spaceequitycorp.com. We're here at Space and Equity, where we're all about increasing assets and creating new space. Real bankers for real people. Come correct, and they can't stop you.